Well, it began in a very strange way. I had a dream when I was in college. At that point in time, I just could not figure out what it really meant. I saw all the Hindu gods in that dream. There were swings, and it was like I had landed in heaven, and there were lots and lots of flowers. And there was this one fakir. I would call him a fakir in a white robe, who I just did not recognize. And I left it at that. Many years later, I moved to Bombay, and I started to work there. I got to know about Shirdi Sai Baba. At that point in time, I just did not know that he would play that kind of a role in my life. But the journey has been very, very fascinating. On knowing about Baba, I decided, or almost a compulsion, that I had to go to Shirdi. I would say this was the most difficult trip that I took to Shirdi, and Baba made it really, really tough. Normally, it's a drive for 6 or 7 hours to Shirdi from Bombay. It took us 15 hours to reach there. On reaching there, it was already night and there was no place to stay. There were millions of people on that particular day. I really do not know what was happening. We had booked Abhishek in the morning, and those days you were allowed to get on to the platform where Baba's Samadhi is. So we could perform the Abhishek very well. In retrospect, I had not slept at all. I was but there was just no tiredness. I just did not, I felt very alive. And after the Abhishek and Darshan at the Samadhi, I drove back to Bombay. After that, I just have to tell you all that I always went to Shirdi in 5-star comfort. The best hotel, the best places, the easiest darshans. In these many years, there were a lot of experiences which happened. At that point in time, I think I just did not even recognize the significance of those experiences. Today, I see them differently. In 2016, January, I went to Shirdi. There is a hotel there by the name of International Hotel. It's one of the older ones, but I don't stay there. But there's a huge statue of Baba in that hotel. And once I spotted a Panditji who volunteered to do a puja, a abhishek for me for that particular murti. And it became a practice with me to do a abhishek and puja at that statue whenever I went to Shirdi. I did go, and as I was doing the abhishek at this place where I always did the abhishek, the strangest of strange things happened. A picture of Baba fell out of the murti, the idol there. And I just didn't know what was happening. I asked the Panditji, "What's this?" So he says, "This is the blessing, just keep it." Not knowing what was coming ahead. In 2016 April, I was diagnosed with a very serious neurological problem. I had never heard the name. Myasthenia gravis. I'd been very healthy, and at the peak of my career when this happened. I went and saw the doctor, not knowing what it really meant. It was a fancy name. I hadn't heard it before. So I was put on steroids immediately. But for the side effects that I had, which was to put on weight and swelling and things like that, I was functioning quite normally. I was working, seeing my clients, and fairly happy, not knowing how serious this problem was. Before all this happened, I was suddenly compelled to do Baba's mantra, which I had not done earlier. And I consulted a spiritual master on that and asked him, "Is it all right for me to do this, to change my mantra?" So what he said was, "Well, if it's so compulsive, just go ahead." In 2017, January, I was back in Bombay and not feeling too good, not knowing how bad the situation was. My brother, who stays in Delhi, said that I must come down to Delhi and he would get me treated and probably taken care of. I reached Delhi on the 7th of January, 2017. On reaching Delhi, my brother called up the doctor, and the doctor advised him that he should not just wait for a minute and I should be completely taken care of immediately and hospitalized. And here, I was back into the ambulance at a minute's notice. On the way to the hospital, inverted commas, I died. There was a total respiratory failure. Nobody knew whether I would be alive again. Of course, I am totally unaware of what was happening. They revived me. and straight to the ICU, where I was kept with an oxygen mask. In the ICU, you're monitored every single minute. After 3 days of being in ICU, I was moved to a room. Everybody thought I was on my way to recovery, but that was not to be. On the 3rd day in the room, I had what they call the myasthenia crisis. The doctor told my brother that the chances of survival were only 50% if he was to give me certain kind of injections, which are very, very expensive. The family did not take a minute. They decided that the injections should be given immediately. It was a 50-50 chance. I was again taken back to the ICU. It was a nightmare, the worst experience so far that I can think of. In the ICU, Baba visited me, Sai Baba. He was there. I vividly remember. This is what he said to me. Your body will be completely crushed. Do not care. I'm there. I will always be there. Body crushed. At that time, it just didn't register. But he was there all the time when I was in the ICU. With him was another living master. I could not see his face, but I saw the yellow of his clothes surrounding me. It was like a tent. Obviously, I was being protected. I didn't have the faintest idea. After 3 days, I was moved to the room. And I saw my doctor, who I will never forget, come smiling to the room and said the crisis was over. Baba was there all the time. And then those words registered. The body will be crushed. Indeed, it was crushed. Every part was affected by the very strong steroids that had been administered. The eyes, the bones, the teeth, everything was affected. But I was alive, very alive in the mind and spirit. That had not been crushed. With Baba's grace, I would hear Buddhist chants in the morning, which nobody else could hear. With Baba's grace, I started to walk. With Baba's grace, I'm here today, alive. He's there all the time. If I close my eyes and think of him, I can see Him. I have come to believe in the evolutionary process. One needs to go through trials to get on with the spiritual journey. It was indeed a trial. I sent a message to one of my friends in recent times. It's been a very painful journey, very trying, very traumatic, but it's wonderful. The kind of lessons I have learned, I do not think any books can teach you. Anything can change at any time. Nothing is eternal except the divine Baba, the divine grace, whichever form you want to see the divine in, that is eternal. Baba played a major role in my life. I think it's the grace of the divine that has got me here today, and I speak to you in gratitude and all humility. We think that we have surrendered. There are three key words there: love, surrender, and faith. Love, of course, also would include devotion. It's a belief that one has surrendered. How does one know? How do you know the meaning of surrender? Unless and until there is a trial. Every day, one would say, I love you, I believe in you, I have faith in you, I have completely surrendered to you. How do you know that all this is happening? It may just be a figment of your imagination. You believe, you're not being dishonest. But how do you know? It's only in a moment of trial that you know where you are. Anxiety, panic, all these reactions set in immediately. Where is the surrender? Where is the faith? Where is the unconditional love that you spoke of or thought that you had? None of these things were there really. So trials are very important for you to establish whether you have really surrendered or not, you love or not, you have faith or not. There is no other way. When I was going through my experiences, there was a lot of questioning that took place in my mind. Why did this ever happen to me? I loved you, I cared, I surrendered, I had faith. Why? I want the answers. I did get all the answers. But it could only happen after I went through my experiences. The answers were there in the experiences. The fact that you had been carried through the whole trauma the whole nightmare, and you were still alive and doing well. One learns to surrender, one grows to surrender. It is just not a simple thought in the mind that I have surrendered. It has to be with some kind of an experience which proves to you that yes, you have surrendered. Ultimately, we all have to surrender. The divine will prevails. You can make millions of plans, but only that happens which the divine designs.